Welcome to this bonus edition of Washington Watch Radio on the FRC website. Hope you caught the rest of the program. If not, you can catch it as well right here on frc.org. I was talking with Kevin McCullough, who is in California this week, former New York-based talk show host, nationally syndicated columnist, and author of the upcoming book, The Kind of Man Every Man Should Be. He's also the voice of FRC News. Kevin, welcome back to Washington Watch Radio.
Yeah, it's good to be with you on the bonus edition, the show after the show, so to speak.
That's right, the bonus. This is green stamps, the bonus. Hey, we were talking about, in the program, we were talking about the media and whether or not they were complicit in promoting the homosexual agenda, or whether or not they were being intimidated. And I didn't get to this in the radio edition, but on Monday night, I was on CNN going up against Jeff Coors, who was one of the homosexuals pushing the same-sex marriage in California. And it was interesting. Of course, to them, it's all about love. Should we not be able to marry the person we love? And, of course, if love drives our public policy, where do you draw the line? But it was interesting in response to that interview. The CNN website had, within just hours, over 20 pages of people writing in on their blog, just most of them homosexual, just attacking me for saying that, children need a mom and a dad, and that this is a deviation from 5,000 years of human history that has always seen marriage as being between a man and a woman. And it was fascinating to me. In fact, I even received hate mail, which is not that unusual, through our portal and other things at the FRC website, but even got packages at the FRC office here in Washington because of that interview, which I find very fascinating, that when you touch on this issue, the homosexual community has been so for lack of a better word, trained to respond to anyone who sticks their head up and challenges the whole, philosophy of the homosexual movement.
And I find it interesting, Tony, that they get so offended at one of the most simple observations that can be made, that a child desperately needs a mother and a father. I mean, that was when you did that interview with Campbell Brown. She actually put up the FRC newspaper ad that FRC had placed the week prior to the licenses being put out there, and you could see it on the face of the guest, David. Is it David Coors who was on with you? Because it's almost like that simple tagline was so enraging to him. And Tony, when you say that all they talk about is how it's got to be based on love, I've written a little bit about this, and I've shared a little bit about this in the book that's coming out in September, but I really want to touch on something that's important when we're talking about the behavior of this, because there is very little about love that isn't related to actual behavior or choices. And the things that make the homosexual activists, and I'm not including all homosexuals in this. There are people that struggle, Tony, because they're broken. There's something in their mind that's broken. There's something in their heart that has been abused. There's something in them and so there are different degrees of people who struggle with this inside and outside of the church. But what I'm talking about is the real angry people, the people that send you that hate mail. When you say things like, we're not going to talk about feelings. We're going to talk about choices and behavior and the difference that those things make. That's when they become the most enraged. And the reason that they do is because in the heart of hearts, they know for themselves the fact that, Tony, when you've been around ministry and pastors for a long time, you've probably heard stories, tragic stories of how families have broken up. One of the things FRC studies and follows very carefully is the whole issue of the health of marriage as it relates to divorce and no-fault divorce and all the other things that our society has crafted to make marriage a simplistic toy almost that people get to throw away when they're done. But when we're talking about marriage is falling apart and a pastor says to a couple, you have a choice to save this marriage and to change behavior and to reconcile and to do what's right for your kids and from a scriptural perspective. He talks about not their feelings, he talks about their actions, and he talks about choosing to do what's right even when your feelings betray you. The problem with redefining marriage to be something that should be based on feelings is that feelings are so incredibly fickle, and they throw you out one day in one direction, and then they reel you back in and they throw you out in a different direction the other day. And Tony, as believers in Jesus Christ, we know that sin can influence our feelings in a big, big way. So what we're doing is we're taking something that's absolute, God's law for marriage and relationships and how it works, and judging our actions and behaviors according to a biblical standard, and we're substituting that for whatever I feel like. And when it's whatever I feel like, there's nothing really that can judge it by an objective position from that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, the shame there is that we're talking about public policy. Public policy is supposed to be made in what is best for society, not individual cases, which is what's driving this. Well, Kevin, let me ask you this. As you're on the ground there in California, what are the churches bracing for, and what are they doing?
It's a very interesting time. The churches here are, to some degree, very torn about what to do, and there's a feeling amongst pastors as if we step out in this effort, is anybody going to be there for us? Are we going to, is this one of those moments where the church really throws down a line in the sand and says, this far and no more? Or is it one of those times where they're going to say, well, maybe we should rethink our theological positions, and maybe Jesus and Paul didn't know that society would go this way, and that's why they couldn't really relate to it in the New Testament, or whatever other lame excuses that could possibly be had. But here's the real challenge. If the churches turn out their congregations, if the churches understand that this is the end of religious liberties and not just the end of marriage in their state, then they really do have a very big dog in the fight, and they need to say, this is what's going to happen. And so I've heard some rumblings, and I know, Tony, you can speak to this much better than anyone else can, that FRC is going to make an intentional, on-the-ground, maybe even open up a California-based office or something, but make a very intentional effort to bring support to churches that want to be involved in the battle. But let me tell you what's happening, kind of an exciting thing out here. There are people that have never done this before that for the first time are saying, how can I start an organization or get involved in something that would actually make an impact on this? And I was talking to one very prominent consultant in California on Tuesday, and he was saying that even some powerful people that have never, put money up or done anything else are coming to him saying, what do we need to do to help organize? And there's this idea going on that if the core evangelical church in California, working in conjunction with the Catholic Church and other parties of interest that they may disagree with to a great degree theologically, like the Mormons, but if they come together around this, that there really is a very powerful turnout that could be anticipated. And one of the strategies, Tony, that I've loved the best is the idea of taking one white evangelical pastor and having him link arms with one black pastor and two Latino pastors in every circle that a pastor is known. So in the suburb of L.A., there's a white pastor that has a church, and he knows a black pastor, and he knows two Latino pastors. If they start their own miniature network, and so now you have four churches all working together, concentrating on the effort at hand. They don't have to agree about John McCain or Barack Obama. They don't have to agree about anything else. All they have to say is, we really do believe that marriage is a biblical institution. Now you're forming miniature networks that become part of a larger network, and if you get these grassroots type efforts going, November could be a very good thing to happen for the church in California and the United States.
I think you're absolutely right. Well, you've been listening to a bonus edition of Washington Watch Radio. Kevin McCullough in California this week, tracking the process as marriage licenses were issued to same-sex couples. We're going to leave you with some sounds of California this week, and I also encourage you to check out the video on the website of this week's activities in California, video that you did not see on the national media. Well, thanks for joining us for this bonus edition, and be sure and tune in next week for more Washington Watch Radio, this week's activities in California.
It is scary to think that people could just take marriage away from us. It's sort of unimaginable, but